What's up, guys? It's Chris coming right back at you. Still Sunday. Just shot a video. I'm not wearing the same clothes 2 days in a row. Anyways, here to talk about this weekend's big doubleheader, boxing doubleheader on Showtime. On paper, in my opinion, this should be the fight of the night, or best fight of night of fights in boxing this year, just on paper, as far as exciting matchups. I mean, these two fights, if all goes as planned, or if expectations go as planned, these should absolutely be potential contenders for fight of the year. So that said, first off, we have Abner against Yonnhy Perez for the IBF bantamweight title. Perez won the title in his last fight in one of the better fights of last year against Joseph Agbeko. I believe that fight was on Halloween. I know not a lot of people saw it. I mean, I think people did, but it didn't get the buzz that it deserved because it was on Halloween. But I remember watching it, and I was like, man, this fight is awesome. Back and forth, very competitive fight. I mean, it was a war. One of the better fights of last year. Didn't get really mentioned up there too high with fights of the year last year, but it would have been in my top 5, if not top 3, just behind Williams Martinez and maybe Diaz Marquez. But it was a great fight. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, make sure you go and check that out. As for Marquez, he's got an undefeated record, 22-0, great amateur pedigree, but doesn't have any really big impressive names on his ledger just yet. Whereas Perez has beaten Agbeko and silenced Mobuza before that. These guys have fought before in the amateurs. They know each other well. They've sparred together plenty of times. Actually, we had both these guys, Abner and Yonnhy, on the radio show a couple months ago. They were both on the same show. So if you want to go check it out and hear their thoughts on the fight, we had them on one after another. Got to interview them one after another. So if you want to hear their thoughts on the fights, as far as their history, what they expect, all that stuff, just go and check out the website and check out the archives or the podcast. And you can hear them talk about the fight themselves. That said, who do I think is going to win this fight? Now, Abner, I don't think would take this fight if he didn't think he had a good chance of winning it. If he didn't see something when they've sparred before, or things like that, fought in the amateurs, if he didn't think he could win this fight. But I'm not quite sure he's ready for this test yet. In beating Silence Mobuza, and particularly Joseph Agbeko, Yonnhy Perez was some absolute wars. Some fights that test you and show you what you're made of. Abner hasn't really had that test just yet, And like I said, he hasn't had that level of opposition. Now, Perez was in tough fights. Would Abner Mars have beaten those guys? I don't know. I think Abner may have the better technique here. I think he may be the more skilled fighter. I think he may be the naturally more talented fighter. But I think that Yonnhy Perez, and this is no disrespect to Abner Mares, may be the tougher fighter. I think when it gets in the trenches and if it gets into a real war, Perez has already been through it. And I think he'd get the better of it if the fight goes that way. Also, I think Perez has got a bit of a strength and a power advantage. He's a more mature guy. He's an older guy. He's got that man strength, as you want to say, where Abner Mars is still a young guy. I expect it to be a war. I don't think it's going to be as much of a war as Agbeko Perez was, because I think Mares is going to want to box. But Abner said, more than likely, he's going to turn it into a fight, That's his Mexican pride. That's the way Mexican fighters fight. And that's most likely what he's going to do. So I do think eventually, even if Abner's having success, and particularly more so if he's not having success, he's just going to go in there and, throw them things and slug it out and hope to get the best of it. But with that said, since I think that's the way the fight's going to play out, I'm going to favor Yonnhy Perez. I'm going to give Abner the benefit of the doubt, though. Like I said, he's a confident young kid. When you're undefeated, you have that kind of confidence. But I just am not sure he's ready for this fight just yet. Now, don't get me wrong. I could be completely wrong about this fight. And Abner could win easily. He could outbox Perez. I don't think he's going to knock him out or stop him by any means. But he could outbox him to a decision and make it look easy. And, I won't be shocked by that. But I am going to favor Yonnhy Perez. In these fights, I've said it before, I usually will favor the proven commodity as opposed to the unproven commodity. Either way, though, I'm really looking forward to this fight. And I think it's going to be a great way to kick off the night. Moving on. Once and for all, as the fight is called. Israel Vazquez Rafael Marquez, Part 4. What can I say? The first 3 fights, all great fights. The third one in particular, it's just an unbelievable fight. I mean, these guys have just gone back and forth, and that last fight was probably the absolute topper. I don't see any way that this fight is going to top that fight, in all honesty. It's just, the expectations are so high when these guys get in the ring, but I don't think anything can exceed that. I mean, that was just one of the best fights I've ever seen, in all honesty, for pure excitement level and drama and just the competitiveness, the history of the guys, everything. It just all came together in that fight. Now, this fight's being made for 2 reasons. One, these guys, I don't know if they've taken so much out of each other that they can face the top of the opposition at that level anymore. Now, granted, junior featherweight's not really all that stacked now that Caballero and Juanma Lopez have moved up to featherweight. But still, I don't know. These guys have just, these wars have had to have taken something out of them. You know, and they weren't exactly the freshest fighters coming into it. But these fights have definitely taken done some damage on them. Particularly Israel Vazquez, who's had like eye surgery since the last fight. You know, just had issues with that. Also, the bottom line is these guys can make more money fighting each other than they can make fighting anybody else. You know, so, and they probably both believe in their hearts that they can beat the other. You know, because they have done so. So that's why the fight's being made. Some people are saying it's a bit sadistic because you shouldn't put these, you know, it's like, what more do you want from these guys, you know? They put it on the line. They've taken each other to hell and back. You know, the brink of a friggin', you know, I don't even know how to put it, but, you know, are we asking too much by asking them to fight each other once again? You know, they're men, they're grown men, they make their choices, and we just have to live with it. And, all honesty, I'd rather see them fight each other than fight some other dangerous opponent, younger opponent and stronger opponent, even though they have the kind of experience and guile to win those fights. Now, as for the fight itself, both have fought since the last fight. Both won by TK over nondescript opposition. That was kind of just to get them back in the ring, see how they work physically. I'm sure, tune-up fights, keep busy fights, call it what you want. As for this fight, Vazquez is winning in the series 2-1. Definitely looked stronger. It goes without saying he looked stronger at the end of the last fight. Wore Marquez down. Had that fight been an old school 15-round fight, Vazquez most likely would have stopped Rafael Marquez. But I still think that Rafael Marquez is the fresher fighter. I think Vazquez has more miles on the odometer. Now granted, this 3-fight series may have taken out of Marquez. Maybe they're even on terms when it comes to that. But I still think that Marquez is a little bit fresher. Vazquez has been in more wars. You know, he hasn't just been in these wars. He's been in wars in the past with plenty of other fighters. You know, so this isn't his first time to the dance, so to speak. He's just been in a lot of tough fights, man. A lot of tough fights. Great fights, but tough fights. It definitely have probably taken a toll on him physically. Marquez, he's been in a lot of tough fights as well, but his biggest downfall, for the most part, has been his chin, which prevents him from, you know, being in some of those wars. Because he gets stunned, you know, he gets hurt and he gets taken out, or, you know. It just, I don't know, it's hard to say. But I think even his wins haven't been as tough of fights as Vazquez's have. So I do think that he's a little bit fresher. But we won't know for sure until the fight happens itself. I'm really excited about this fight. As I said, this should be one of the better fights of the year, regardless. Regardless of where these guys are at, even if they have not much left, when you put these two in the ring, it's almost guaranteed to be excitement. And they've shown that. So who do I think is going to win the fight? I'm going to go with Marquez. I don't know, man. Vazquez had the issues with the eye. I heard he hasn't looked so well in the gym at times, sparring. I haven't really heard any reports on Marquez one way or the other, but it's going to be a close fight. It's going to be a hell of a fight. But, like I said, I think Marquez has a little bit more left. I think he's got the more power, and I think he could take it to Vazquez's chin. Don't be surprised if it goes the distance. You know, I won't be surprised. Don't be surprised if Vazquez wins this fight within the distance. But I'm going to go with Rafael Marquez by TKO mid-rounds. I don't really have any real analysis to why I call it like that. You know, you can't judge based on the first 3 fights. Maybe you can't. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to go with Rafa to win this fight. So I'm really looking forward to it, though. That being said, once again, be sure and check out the websites. There will be bloodfightshow.com, leavingintthering.com, and my Twitter if you're interested. Links under the video as always. Be sure and check out the radio show every Thursday. leaveitinthering.com, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. You can also catch the radio show on boxingscene.com now. We've partnered up with them, so just be sure and check that out and support it. We do appreciate the support always. I'll be back next Sunday to give my thoughts afterwards on these fights. But until then, guys, I'm out. Who do you think's going to win the fights? Vazquez, Marquez, Abner, Perez? Let me know who you got winning and why. Back on Sunday to talk to you. Till then,